One of the hardest messages to answer is not always from someone you hate. Sometimes it is from someone you are supposed to love. Your phone lights up. You see the name. Maybe it is your mother, maybe your father, maybe a sibling, maybe someone from home. And for a moment, you just stare at it. Not because you are busy, not because you are cruel, not because you do not care, but because something in your body becomes heavy before you even know what to say. The message may be simple. Call me. Are you coming home? Why haven't you replied? Nothing dramatic has happened. No one is yelling, but your chest tightens anyway. Your mind starts preparing. Your body already knows. There may be a conversation behind the conversation, a mood you will have to manage, a guilt you will have to carry, a version of yourself you will have to become again. So you put the phone down, you tell yourself you will answer later. But later becomes tonight. Tonight becomes tomorrow. And by then, the silence has already started to say something you were not ready to say out loud. From the outside, this can look cold. People may think you are ungrateful. They may think you have changed. They may think you are becoming distant for no reason. But what they do not see is how long it took you to get here. People who want to cut off their family rarely wake up one day and suddenly stop caring. Usually, the distance begins much earlier. Long before the unread messages. Long before the missed calls. Long before going home started feeling impossible. It begins in all the moments where being close to family did not feel like rest. It felt like preparation, preparing your tone, preparing your face, preparing to become smaller so the room could stay calm. And the painful part is that you may still love them. That is what makes it so confusing. Because if you did not care, distance would feel simple. But you do care. That is why it hurts. You are not only avoiding a phone call, you may be avoiding the old role that family contact brings back. The version that gets quiet before anyone asks. The version that reads the room before it relaxes. The version that learned to survive love by needing less from it. If this already feels familiar, leave a dot in the comments. Because sometimes the message is small, but your body reacts like history has just entered the room. And after your body reacts like history has entered the room, the next thing that usually arrives is guilt. Because the moment you admit you want distance, someone always has a sentence ready. But they're your family. As if blood is supposed to erase tension. As if being related to someone means your body is required to feel safe around them. That sentence can make you question yourself. Maybe I am selfish. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I should just get over it. Maybe everyone's family is like this, and I am the one making it difficult. So you try to explain less. You try to need less. You try to make your pain small enough that no one can accuse you of being dramatic. And sometimes you even start defending them in your own mind. They did their best. They had their own pain. Maybe other people had it worse. You build explanations around your hurt until the hurt itself has no room to breathe. That is what family guilt can do. It does not always make you stay because you feel loved. Sometimes it makes you stay because leaving would make you feel cruel. So you answer the call, you go home, you sit at the table, you smile at the right time. You avoid the topic that always turns into something bigger. And from the outside, it looks like everything is fine. But inside, you are measuring yourself. How much honesty is safe here? How much emotion is too much? How much of me can exist before someone reacts? This is what people miss when they say, but they're your family. They see the parent, the sibling, the home, the tradition. They do not see the emotional cost of staying inside it, or how often you had to choose peace over truth. Maybe you were praised for being understanding, for being mature, for not causing problems, for letting things go. But sometimes being the easy one is just another way of being unseen. And over time, love started to feel tangled with obligation. Connection started to feel like performance. Being close started to mean proving you were not hurt by things that still hurt you. So when you think about cutting off your family, it may not come from hatred. It may come from exhaustion, the exhaustion of carrying a relationship where your pain keeps needing a better reason to exist. That is why the guilt is so strong, because a part of you still wants to be good. A good child, a good sibling, a good person. But another part of you is tired of being good at the cost of being real. People say, but they're your family, as if that sentence erases everything your nervous system remembers. But sometimes family is not only where you come from, sometimes family is where you first learn to doubt your own pain. And once family becomes the place where you learn to doubt your own pain, going home can stop feeling like going home. It can start feeling like entering an old role. You may notice it before anyone says anything. The way your voice changes, the way your posture tightens, the way you become careful with your words, suddenly younger, smaller, easier to control. Even the familiar things can start to feel different. The sound of a door closing, the way someone says your name, the chair you always sit in, the room where everyone knows you, but not always the person you became. You may have spent years becoming someone different, someone more honest, more self-aware, someone who knows what they feel without apologizing for existing. But then one family conversation pulls you back. One comment, one look, one familiar silence. And suddenly, you are not the person you became. You are the person you had to be. The one who does not ask for too much. Who notices when the room is about to shift? Who senses irritation before it becomes visible? Who learned that peace often depended on silence? This is why some people want to cut off their family, not because every moment was terrible, not because there were no good memories, but because the body remembers patterns, not just events. It remembers being dismissed. It remembers being told you were dramatic when you were hurt. It remembers having to comfort the person who hurt you. And it remembers the moment honesty started feeling dangerous. Sometimes the wound is not one big memory. Sometimes it is years of small moments where you realized it was safer to make yourself easier to love, safer to agree, safer to laugh it off, safer to say nothing. Slowly, the nervous system builds a map. Closeness means watching carefully. Love means adjusting yourself. Belonging means knowing which parts of you to hide. That is not just personality. That is adaptation. You learned how to read the room before you learned how to rest inside it. And when you live that way long enough, your body may start reacting to family before your mind can explain why. A simple visit feels exhausting before it begins. A phone call feels like a demand. A holiday feels like a test of how much of yourself you can suppress without breaking. And the hardest part is that no one else may notice. They may think you are fine because you learned how to look fine. They may think nothing happened because you learned how not to show what happened inside you. But every time you leave, you feel it. The emotional crash, the silence afterward, the strange relief of being alone again. Because maybe home was never only a place. Maybe home was also the place where you learn to leave yourself behind. And eventually, the desire for distance starts to make sense. At first, the distance may feel temporary. You tell yourself you just need space. A few days without calls. One weekend without explaining yourself. A little time where nobody expects you to become the family version of yourself. But then something happens. The quiet feels good, not exciting, not joyful, just calm. Your phone lights up again. You see the name. And for once, you do not immediately move toward it. You just sit there, breathing, not because you stopped caring, but because your body is finally not being pulled back into the old role. Your phone feels less heavy. Your mind feels less crowded. Your body is no longer preparing for the next comment, the next guilt, the next emotional demand. And for the first time in a long time, being unreachable does not feel like abandonment. It feels like oxygen. That is when distance becomes complicated. Because it can be both necessary and painful. It can protect you and still make you grieve. You may miss them and feel relieved they are not calling. You may love them and still feel safer when they are far away. You may want closeness, but not the version of closeness that requires you to disappear. And this is the part that is hard to explain to anyone who has never felt it. Distance from family is not always punishment. Sometimes it is the first place your nervous system stops bracing. They call it distance. But your nervous system calls it relief. And when relief has been missing for years, it can become hard to give up. You start noticing how different you feel when you are not around them. You breathe more normally. You think more clearly. You do not have to defend your choices. You do not have to translate your feelings into something acceptable. You do not have to become smaller so someone else can stay comfortable. So being away begins to feel like peace. But here is where the deeper truth appears. Relief is not always healing. Sometimes relief is just the absence of pressure. And when the nervous system has been under pressure for too long, the absence of pressure can feel like freedom. Maybe this space is not the whole answer. Maybe it is the first place your body could finally tell the truth. It shows you where closeness became too expensive, where love started feeling like duty, where being loyal to family began to require being disloyal to yourself. But if distance is never understood, it can quietly become a wall. At first, you stop answering because you need to recover. Then you stop answering because every message feels like danger. Then you stop answering because distance becomes the only place where you know how to feel safe. And that is the painful part. The same distance that protects you from being hurt can also protect you from being known. Not because you are wrong for needing it, but because the wound is deeper than one unanswered call. The real question is not whether you should cut them off. The real question is when closeness started feeling like self-abandonment. And if closeness has felt like self-abandonment for long enough, then wanting distance does not mean you are heartless. It may mean something in you is trying to survive. You may not want to cut off your family because you stopped loving them. You may want distance because love started asking too much of you. Too much silence, too much emotional control, too much swallowing your truth so other people could stay comfortable. And maybe that is why this hurts so much. Because you are not choosing between love and hate. You are choosing between staying connected and staying whole. That is not a simple choice. It is grief, the grief of wanting family to feel safe, of wishing home felt like rest, of loving people who may never understand what it cost you to be close to them. And maybe there is another grief underneath it. The grief of realizing you spent years hoping they would notice what you never had the language to explain, hoping they would see the tiredness behind your quiet, the hurt behind your distance, the child in you that was not trying to be difficult, only trying to be heard. So no, maybe you are not cold. Maybe you are tired, not ungrateful, not trying to destroy your family, just emotionally exhausted from carrying a role no one noticed you were carrying. Maybe you are trying to stop destroying yourself to keep the family image alive. This is not about deciding everything forever. It is about understanding why your body started needing distance in the first place. Because your body may be telling the truth about something your mind has spent years explaining away. Sometimes the guilt is not proof that you are wrong. Sometimes the guilt is proof that you were trained to feel responsible for everyone's comfort but your own. And maybe the part of you that wants distance is not the cruel part. Maybe it is the part that still remembers you, the part that knows you were not born to be the quiet one forever. The easy one, the understanding one, the one who absorbs everything and asks for nothing. Maybe you are not rejecting your family. Maybe you are finally questioning the version of love that required you to reject yourself. And if this felt personal, leave a dot in the comments. For more videos that help you understand the hidden emotional patterns behind human behavior, consider subscribing to Cortex Psychology. Because sometimes the people who want to cut off their family are not trying to stop loving them. They are trying to find out who they are, when love no longer requires them to disappear. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being here. At Cortex Psychology, we explore the hidden patterns behind the way you think, feel, and connect. If this video helped you understand yourself a little more, stay with us. You don't have to decode your mind alone. We'll decode it together. See you in the next one.